Hey everyone, good morning.
Hi, teacher. Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, we're going to start to the topic of today. I will be start presenting to you. Great. So during this week, we have seen a lot about services, since a great example on how services are going international, the types of export modes, the position of Mexico in terms of services, which is the tertiary sector, which are the industries involving here. We have seen a little bit about regulations and a lot of statisticals and data that can force like our knowledge on it. But I think that we haven't seen like the explanation of export modes itself. So I just wanted to introduce first in service exports. So for an export to take place, residents of one country pay residents to another country for some kind of benefit. In this case, we're talking about services. So there are great challenges, as we have been seeing during these weeks, during this week about services. And one is of the complexity of modes of service exports, which I have already mentioned to you. There are 4 types of service exports. And today we're going to be seeing a lot of examples of each one of the types of export modes so that you can have like, I think it's better when you give examples and that you will remember easier, right? So we're going to focus our class on that. Also, other challenges that they are having is new technology, and they have to be evolving and adapting to all the types of technology that are being implemented in services. Tropicalization is one important thing in services. It's one of the, well, I think it's a sector that has to tropicalize more things than we normally think about when you think about a product like an iPhone or a calculator or something. And also there are a lot of government intervention in services. And in some cases that I'm going to be showing you today, you will be able to see that. And so, well, just for us to start and refresh our memories on what are the 4 types of export modes, I will be sharing just like the basic definitions format. So cross-border is the #1 type of export service mode. So it says if the service is transported across the border, it can be via electronic means or infrastructure. So in here, I will be also giving you an example of how will it apply when we're talking about infrastructure. So if you think about it, when you have to do some kind of exportation, you have to have like an agent that comes to the border to tell that all the documentation is okay and the product can go to another country. So that person being coming to the border and telling and giving like the green light that it's all correct, that will be a kind of cross-border in terms of infrastructure. And also, when you think about infrastructure in terms of cross-border, it can also be when the case of transportation services, because the truck is like a physical thing or an infrastructure for the case of transportation. So when the truck crosses the border, that will be a cross-border infrastructure. I don't know if I've explained it, but anyway, we're going to see an example of it in a minute. Then we also have consumption abroad. That is when the consumer travels to another country to use a service, as we have seen in the example of the concert of the Jonas Brothers being in New York City and me going there to have the concert. The third one is commercial presence, which I think is the one that most of us are related to, when it's like a company from one country sets up subsidiaries, branches, or like franchises to provide a service in another country. And the last but not least, movement of natural persons is when the individual travels from their country to supply the services to another country. For example, if a professor from Stanford will be coming to Tec de Monterrey physically and give a course or something. So that will be quick examples of it, but we're going to be focusing on one of each. So just before we start putting examples, like real life examples, I wanted to come up with an example that you can see how a company and how an industry can implement the 4 types of export modes. So think about this. We're here in Monterrey, have an hospital that is Zambrano Elion here in Mexico, and is one of the best hospitals that we can have here in Mexico and Monterrey too. So imagine that there's a specialist, a cardiologist working at the Zambrano, and it's like the best doctor that you can imagine in terms of cardio. And there's a Canadian person living in Canada that has a lot of friends here in Monterrey, and he asked for a recommendation of a cardiologist in Mexico, but because he knows that in Zambrano Elion, there's like the top of the top doctors. And they have to want to have a consult online because he's having some troubles with his heart. So the cardiologist has this consult via online to a person in Canada. And that's like the first example of cross-border, because the doctor is giving a service via online to another person that lives in Canada. So here's one example of it. And another example, it will be like imagining an utopic world where an hospital in Texas is saying that they have a lot of vaccines for COVID. They have over inventory and they have to sort out in a way, spread it out in the world. And they decided that they wanted to send some to Hospital Zambrano, and they will be the ones in charge of the logistics, because you know vaccines tend to be a lot of like specific transportation characteristics. So they will be in charge of transporting the vaccines. So that will be also cross-border, and it will be via infrastructure, because they will be taking the vaccines, the hospital itself, in a truck to come here to Hospital Zambrano Elion. So these are 2 examples of cross-border in hospitals. So how will it look when we talk about another export mode? So let's think about it. So this same person in Canada, he realizes in the consult that he is really having some heart issues, and he will have to have a heart surgery. So he will have to come to Hospital Zambrano Elion to see the specialist, the cardiologist that was consulting him, and he will have the operation here in Zambrano Elion. So the type of exportation mode will be consumption abroad, because the Canadian citizen is coming here to Mexico to have its heart surgery. So how will it look if it's the other way around? So if the Canadian, imagine the Canadian has a lot of heart issues and he cannot travel here to Monterrey to have the surgery. So in that way, the cardiologist will have to go to Canada to offer the service, to have like the heart attack, I'm sorry, I'm already killing him. No, the heart surgery. So this will be movement of natural persons. The cardiologist going to Canada to operate on their patient. So we're only missing one other example of exportation mode, which is commercial presence. So how will this look like? So imagine Hospital Zambrano, it's like a great example worldwide of a hospital. They have a lot of certifications. They have like a really good positioning in Mexico, and someone from Chile wants them to come to Chile so that they can open like an hospital. So Hospital Zambrano will be opening new Zambrano in Chile. So that will be commercial presence. And if you think about like, I mean, this is like a big investment or something, but Zambrano can also open just like a small clinic in Chile, and that will also be commercial presence. So this was just like an example that you can see that one industry, one company can operate the 4 types of export modes. And I'm sure you can come up with another ideas of how a company can implement those 4 export modes, and it will be the second activity that you are going to be doing. So just to open your mind and to clarify. So we're going to start already focusing in one of each. So cross-border. So the definition itself, it says service itself crosses the border. It can be, as we mentioned, via infrastructure or online. I mean, the most common way and that you can think of, it will be online. I mean, we have a lot of technology right now, and pretty much most of the companies implement this. But just for you to know that you can also think about infrastructure when coming up with an example for the activity number 2. So some of the examples that we can come up with cross borders would be consulting, studies, and projects. I don't know, get together with an expert of another nation, like we have been talking that nations get specialized in some types of industries. So getting me to have like a specific consult of an expert, I don't know, in TI from another country via email, via Zoom, that could be a way of applying cross-border. The other one will be marketing and research. You know, today to get to know a market, you always kind of do data analytics surveys, interview with people via distance, and that can also happen like online. And like sometimes it will require you to translate to another country to do these types of research, and that will be movement of natural persons, you going to another country to do so. But first of all, you will like try to be doing it in online services so that you don't have to pay much money. The other one will be transportation or courier services, as we mentioned it before, like the truck going itself, it will be via infrastructure. Also, we have education and e-learning, which this one has been growing a lot, mostly in the pandemic. So it will be teaching a class online for another student that it's like, I don't know, in Germany or in China or in South Korea or something. So thinking about e-learning, we have the perfect example that I know, and well, that's my perception at least, that anyone have been at least doing one course during the pandemic in Coursera. So Coursera was founded in 2012 by 2 Stanford computer science professors with a vision to provide anyone, anywhere with access to the world, the best education. So they empower their learners to advance their careers, further their studies, improve their communities, and change the world like together. So these e-learning companies started in the United States, offering online courses from the top universities. You can find out there Yale, Stanford, Harvard. And well, the type of services that they do, if you think about it, sometimes they don't charge you the course itself. Other courses, I mean, they will try to make money of it because of the complexity of the course, but normally they don't charge you to take a course. But what they charge you for is the certification. So if you take the course and you don't want to have a certification, you were just doing it to get knowledge and something, so that will not be like a problem for me. But if you want to have the certification, you will have to pay, and that is like the business that they have. So it comes with 66 million learners. I mean, of course, all the 66 million learners will not be paying because it depends of if they want to have the certification or not. But what I'm thinking right now, it's maybe Coursera in the next years, they will be trying to sort of way make more money of it, and they will start changing like Spotify has with advertisement. Like, I don't know, if you see a course of 1 hour, so you will have like 5 adverts, like ads. And there's another way that they will start making money of it. So Coursera nowadays have courses from universities all around the world. It could be UK, Mexico, Brazil, India, Korea, even more corporations. We can also see that there are types of courses from Google, PwC, and other corporations. They are also investing in Coursera. The company also offers a specialization for business and governments as well as campuses. And well, that's just like a really good and a basic example. And I'm sorry if it was so basic, but I will come up with another example that I'm pretty sure everyone is in contact with this application. So we're talking about TikTok, and TikTok during the pandemic had grown a lot. And like, I do TikTok all night, like at least 1 hour. I'm not proud of it, but yes, it's like addicted. So TikTok is leading destinations for short from mobile videos. It says there, our mission is to inspire creativity and bring joy, which I think, in my personal opinion, it does. The platform offers an endless feed to users, relying heavily on artificial intelligence. So the thing of TikTok, I don't know if you knew, but it's a company that started in China. So the thing about TikTok, like, well, how do they make money? Basically, because of us consumers. So what they do is that a company normally tends to go into TikTok smoothly, and they start doing challenges or trends, and they contact the like specific influencers, or they contact TikTok. So, hey, please try to do this challenge with, I don't know, like a Pepsi. And people will start doing that, and with the algorithm and all the information that TikTok has, they start selling like on like without you noticing. So that's how they made money through us. And this is not like why I bring TikTok here, but it's because another thing that happened the last year, that was that they wanted to ban it from a country. So does anyone has like the knowledge of where it was like trying to get banned? Yes, Paula?
The United States wanted to ban TikTok in the United States.
Yes, totally. That's correct. Do you know why, or someone like have any idea of it? It's okay if you don't. We're going to see a lot. Yes, Jimena?
I'm not really sure, but I think it was because they were gathering dates. They were supposedly gathering data. They didn't really trust China there. So they thought they were gathering data like unconsciously, like you download the app and the app allow you to get the data from your phone.
Exactly. Donato?
Yes, complementing what Jimena said, I also believe that it had to do with Mr. Donald Trump, because he believed the US citizens were in somehow disadvantaged with on front of the Chinese, because this country had all of this data from the citizens, while the United States had nothing in advantage to the Chinese. It was kind of sketchy, but I believe that was what I understood.
Yes, it involves like political perspectives. Yes. Paula?
I think something of what further motivated Donald Trump to impose a ban on TikTok is that throughout the years, China has gained a lot of economical power that has been really like shaking United States presence as the economic power of the world.
Yes, and somehow it's terms of geopolitics and, you know, the competitiveness that they have been having like for a long time. So yes, and going forward, of it. So coming to the presentation, yes. So they were like, Donald Trump was trying to ban TikTok. And the main reason why, and as you have been telling the class, it's because of personal information. So if he was trying to, we are protecting our United States consumers, and from one day to another, he was like, no, so TikTok will be banned like tomorrow. You will not be able to use it because of national protection, and it's like an emergency and stuff. But I think it was like more from it. It's not only like they are having information, because what Donald Trump says, okay, no, so TikTok will not be banned unless it's bought from an American company. And that's where Microsoft come from, and Microsoft raised the hand and said, I want to buy it. And in that way, Donald Trump was saying, okay, then if Microsoft own it, it will not be banned. So what are you thinking, like talking about? If China is having the information from the consumers, is not okay. But if you, United States, are having the information of the consumer, now it is. So now it's not like dangerous. Like, I mean, that was kind of complex. And in that case, you'll also like have seen that the political balance that they wanted to make was like for geopolitical reasons, not only because they were having like to protect the consumer. I don't know if I can explain myself. So it was like that kind of way. And also, like, just to mention, it's also banned from Pakistan and from India. And like, I mean, it's sometimes I think about it and it's difficult for me to understand why China created the app and they are not able to use it either. Like they don't use it there, but so doesn't matter. So they have also a lot of, so see, this is like a cross-border, but they also have presence in like in other countries, you know, like headquarters stuff. So they also applying a commercial presence too. So I wanted to have like a video that explains more about the case of United States banning TikTok. And also I wanted to put you another video that it's saying that Donald Trump wanted to ban TikTok because they were about to have the elections, and everything that was on TikTok was affecting Donald Trump's campaign. So it was not only the Chinese thing, but also its personal saving, you know? So I will put these two videos for you. Okay, so it.
Hi, yeah, this is Mr. Zuckerberg. The hardest part of my job is cold calling and getting in touch with the right people.
More than
Professor,
800 million of us
video
have
is not
downloaded.
playing. We're just listening to the audio.
Yes, I have to share. Sorry, thank you for that. Here you have.
Downloaded TikTok around the globe.
And plenty of governments are concerned about the role that a Chinese-owned app now plays in all of our lives. It's just been banned in India, the app's biggest overseas market, where it's considered to be a national security threat. But it's been banned and reinstated there before, same as in Bangladesh and Indonesia. A ban doesn't necessarily mean it's game over. There's also concern in Australia, the US and the UK as to whether TikTok's parent company ByteDance shares your data with the Chinese government. American Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has commended the ban and has said that banning the app in the US is something we're looking at.
US citizens' data that they have on their phones or in their system or in their healthcare records we want to make sure that the Chinese Communist Party doesn't have a way to easily access that.
A lot of how TikTok works, from its data storage to its algorithm, is shrouded in mystery. So what do we know? It says that its US data is stored in the US with backup in Singapore, and it's also said that it's recently moved its European privacy operations to Ireland. A ban in North America would be huge. It's big business for TikTok and is home to its biggest star, Charli D'Amelio, with 70 million followers. American activity is really important to its brand image as a video platform full of funny and educational content that can rival YouTube. So is TikTok trying to look, well, less Chinese? TikTok withdrew the app recently from Hong Kong alongside Google, Facebook, and Twitter because of new Chinese national security laws that crack down on pro-democracy protesters. For TikTok, that was a big political move to demonstrate that it isn't tied to the Chinese government. But TikTok has repeatedly refused to appear at congressional hearings in the US to discuss security issues. If TikTok really did have nothing to hide, why does it still not have much to say?
Okay, so that was the first video. I will be sharing to you the second.
TikTok, we may be banning TikTok, we may be doing some other things. There are a couple of options, but a lot of things are happening.
For TikTok stars like Sarah Cooper, a ban might mean switching to other social media or losing a platform entirely.
Wait, you're not a liberal? You're conservative? All of y'all are racist. I'm a Trump supporter. Keep America great.
Christian Walker is part of the Republican Hype House, a 20-person group with 800,000 followers and millions of likes. He's making a name for himself and was even retweeted by one President Trump. Describe what TikTok means for you as a creative outlet.
Good question. I think it is the new app of Gen Z. It's the next generation app. When I feel they're being indoctrinated by the left and by the other side, it's really helpful, and it's really helpful in kind of getting the message out for the younger generation.
What did you think when you heard that there may be a ban in the United States on TikTok?
I wasn't surprised. TikTok's owned by ByteDance, Zhejiaodong, and all of the Chinese companies. It's a Chinese company based in Beijing. They all have to have a Dangzhibu, which is a party group, and it's connected to the Chinese Communist Party. I'm so grateful that Trump's trying to make a business deal rather than just banning it immediately. But, you know, if that's what has to happen, then I'm glad American citizens are being protected.
Many in the government agree. Earlier this year, the Pentagon issued a stark warning to military personnel about TikTok, and the Army and Marine Corps banned it. Then the House passed legislation that would make it illegal for federal employees to download the app on government devices. Colorado Congressman Ken Buck was the sponsor.
The Chinese Communist Party is using TikTok to collect massive amounts of data from American citizens and our government that could be used in a cyber attack against our republic.
Do you think that Americans, kids in America, the 100 million Americans who use TikTok, should be using it right now?
I don't think they should. And I think oftentimes we leave those decisions up to individuals. And you know, as a conservative, I don't like seeing government walk in and say, you know, this is prohibited activity. But I think when a foreign government is using it for espionage purposes, that's the importance of preventing that, in my view, is greater than the luxury of having an app like that in America.
Why do you think the president cares about this and is interested in this? There have been some theories that have been floated that he is shutting down TikTok because of what happened with the Tulsa, Oklahoma rally, that a bunch of TikTok kids signed up and took spaces in that rally. There's that woman, Sarah Cooper, who's the comedian who mocks the president using TikTok. Do you think that's related to why he wants to ban it?
I think this president has thicker skin than anybody I've ever seen in politics or in any other area of the world. But this president is constantly criticized, and whether someone uses TikTok or goes on cable TV, I don't think he has concerns about that. I think this is a very legitimate espionage concern.
How do we know that the Chinese government is taking the data from TikTok and collecting it?
Because every Chinese company has an obligation to report to the Chinese Communist Party and to the Chinese intelligence agencies what they learn.
Some tech experts are skeptical that using TikTok makes users or the US government uniquely vulnerable. Jason Kobler covers TikTok for Vice's Motherboard. He says the issue's more nuanced than lawmakers or the president are making it out to be. So how concerned should Americans be that the Chinese and the Chinese Communist Party might be actually using their data against them?
I think the risk is very low. Honestly, I think that the Trump administration is using TikTok as a lever of power to pull in this ongoing battle between the United States and China.
How could your data be used maliciously against you, against a person in a cyber attack?
I think the 2016 election gives us a blueprint for how this stuff could be used against you. I guess what I would say is that the risk with TikTok is not inherently worse than the risk with Facebook, because we've seen Facebook get manipulated over and over again, and that Facebook is an American company. So the fact that TikTok is a Chinese company doesn't necessarily make it more vulnerable. It's just as vulnerable as Facebook. There's an element here of Silicon Valley wanting to protect itself and of the US government wanting to protect American companies by using this sort of, anti-China sentiment to potentially ban it.
Recently, Microsoft said it's going to try to buy TikTok, which would make Trump happy. And his August 6th executive order puts pressure on the app to sell to an American company. But there's another catch. Trump wants the federal government to get a piece of the action. What authority does the president have to ask for that?
I think the president is especially good at saying things that are top of mind that then have to be put into some context. And I don't know what the context is here. I don't know what the legal authority is for the federal government to charge a finder's fee, but it's certainly something that gets people talking.
Okay, so that was the case for TikTok. And right now, it didn't happen at the end. You can still use TikTok in United States, but it's an example. It's an example where you can see how a government can intervene in a service because of national security. So if they get the support, it will be like a whole change for a company. And if they get banned and they have regulatory things going on the way, they will find in a bankruptcy. So that was a good example, I think. Coming back to the presentation, we will continue. Okay. So consumption abroad. The type of export mode of a consumption abroad will be consumer crossing the border to obtain services. Some of the example can be, of course, tourism and tours and experiences, legal local guidance in have you seen all the types of international trades and contracts? So a local guidance of a country you want to deal with, you will have to go to that country to get to know that perspective of, I don't know, if you're making a contract with India and you want to have like good information about the regulations and all the government things in India. So you will have to go there so that you can have a local guidance and get to know like the other part of the negotiation. So that will be an example for legal and local guidance. The other one is health operations, as we saw in the example I just told you. There's a thing called health tourism, which comes with surgery. It could be a necessity or it could be plastic. That's like a thing right now also too. And the other thing is education, conferences, events. I don't know, students traveling to another country to take a course or studying abroad, that will be consumption abroad. So one of the biggest examples here in Mexico is Xcaret, which is like a park in Mexico, in Quintana Roo. And if you think about it, it is expensive. Yes, that's a thing right now. Andres is saying like, or tons of people travel to the United States to get the COVID vaccine. Yes, that's health tourism technically, and they made a lot of money out of it. Thank you for that, Andres. That's a good example. And yes, so if you think about Xcaret, normally maybe us as Mexicans, I don't know, or at least that's my perception. I have been to Xcaret, and I mean, I will not be going all the time that I go there. And of course, me going to Xcaret is not like a consumption abroad thing, that doesn't apply. But in the perception of Mexico, for Xcaret, I think their focus and their target market will not be Mexicans, because maybe we're not willing to pay that much for that experience. So their concentration, it's like on international consumers, and it works a lot. A lot of people come to Quintana Roo to see Xcaret and live the experience and etc. So that's a good example for consumption abroad. Also, another example that came last year, and this was also a government intervention. So students going to the United States to study abroad, that's like consumption abroad. And what happened the last year because of COVID, Donald Trump also said like, hey, I will not be giving more visas. So if you're a foreign student or you're like doing an internship or something, your visa will not be renovated. So do as you want, we're not giving more visas. And that's another government intervention that they made in services. And some of the students have been like had troubles from it. But at the end, it worked. I think it was like just a crisis that Donald Trump had. But I mean, that's another example of government intervention on the service. The other example is Canton Fair. I don't know if someone has heard about Canton Fair. Anyone? Okay, if you don't, it's okay. It's completely fine. So Canton Fair is this like an import and export trade fair. It started in 1953 and today is held twice a year in the port of the city of Guangzhou in China. So just to give you like an idea of how big Canton Fair is the size about 71 Walmart superstores. So imagine that huge kind of fair, and it comes like a lot of persons all around the world. If you are selling something or if you want to buy something, you know, it gets like it's a place for you to start comparing your suppliers, to start like networking, and that's like a big fair for all like industries to go there and just talk and get to know people, etc. So how would they do money? So if you want to go to Canton Fair, you have to pay a ticket to enter, and that's why it's considered consumption abroad. So me going to China, paying a ticket, that's the consumption abroad. That's the example. And also something important to mention is that because of COVID, Canton Fair had to change into a cross-border services because of they have to do it online. I mean, it's not the same experience. I think that the best way to experience Canton Fair will be going there. But yes, that's the adaptation that they have to apply in this last year. Okay, so the other example that is the religion tourism kind of thing, the Hajj industry. This is a 5-day pilgrimage from the Islamic duty of the Muslims, and that comes with a lot of money. So there says the event alone generates $12 billion annually, making it the second most important industry to Saudi Arabian government after oil and gas, and the country even has a specific ministry for Hajj event. So attending from the US can cost more than $10,000 US, and in India, Muslims enter a lottery or pay as much as 1/3 of their annual salary. So that's a lot of money invested in just like a religion tourism. And other example, like for us, or at least for me that I'm Catholic, it will be El Camino de Santiago, which is also really famous, and it will be a consumption abroad thing. So just to open up your mind and just for you to see that there are other types of tourisms, like specifically we've seen health and just for pleasure, or ecotourism, it's also a thing, religion tourism. So there has like a lot of segments over there. Well, so the third one, commercial presence. So this is like a company sets up branches in another countries to offer their services. Examples of this: finance, banks, distribution warehouse, construction local construction teams, retail local shops are some of the examples, and we will get to see specific ones. So it will be kind of like any franchise that you want to open. An example of this will be Anytime Fitness. This is originally from the United States and known as more than 4,700 locations worldwide. It's present in 40 countries. And it's like a gym that it's open 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And they have like a lot of franchise over the world. So it's just like the adaptation of them on hours and that kind of stuff. So that's one example. The other example is Kentucky Fried Chicken. So this company, I think it's funny, and if you see like the picture here of Kentucky Christmas, and this is why like this is a franchise known everywhere in the world. Pretty much every country that you go in, they will probably have a Kentucky Fried Chicken. And they have a lot of adaptation and tropicalization in their menu, and also in their marketing and in other types of way of communication. And one good example of this is like in Japan, they successfully market, they associate the brand with Christmas meals. So they know in Kentucky of Japan, they know that their biggest sales will be during the Christmas time. So that's a good example of it. And also in France, they know that the Afro-Americans will be the ones that buy the most in Kentucky Fried Chicken. So the target market will be directed to them. And also another example is that they have been implementing plant-based alternatives in specific markets. The UK and the United States is an example of that. And also they are making like a huge change of brand introduction from Kentucky Fried Chicken as we knew it to KFC. So we have been seeing that transformation in the last years, and that is because in the United States, the FDA said that Kentucky Fried Chicken cannot be called chicken because it's like it has a lot of chemicals and a lot of hormones. It stopped being a chicken. It's like something else. It's not a chicken anymore, like a natural chicken. So that's why they're changing the name to KFC. So that's a good example of commercial presence being adapting to the market, to the specific market. I don't know if you want to see the video. Okay, so that was just like an example of how they do their marketing in Japan. It's interesting. So they have to adapt to them. Great. So another example of commercial presence will be Hema. Recently they started to expand, and they started in the Middle East in 2018. This year they will be opening their first Mexican location, like expecting 200 locations by 2025, and competing with Miniso and Zara Home. And the thing that they have is that they are like a sustainable type of company. So that's the main change that they're making. So this will be an example of also for commercial presence. And another one, which is like, for me, it's really interesting, is the studios recording at Hollywood North. So a lot of producers are opening other sedes in another like cities and countries. So right now, if you think about it, maybe at some time in the history of Hollywood, everything was made in Hollywood, like all the movies and all the TV series. But right now they're starting to move to other locations. And that's an example of doing it in Europe. Also, for example, in United States, they're also doing Atlanta thing. For example, Marvel movies are being shot at Atlanta. And a really good example is in Canada, in British Columbia, in Vancouver. They open up like several new studios, and that region is now called Hollywood North. And this is like oh, Andres, yes? Sorry.
No, if you want, Well, it's just a comment that a great location for
Mhm.
a movie shooting and series shooting is Australia, because
Uh-huh.
I believe they also give these types of tax credits and tax benefits. And for example, I know that the next Thor movie, Thor: Love and Thunder, is being shot there, and I don't know if you've heard about the show The Mandalorian, which is in
Yes.
Disney Plus. Well, they use a very innovative technology, which is, they call it the volume, which is like 360 LED screens, which are very realistic. And that might help in the future cut costs of production and traveling for film production, because you can have digital backgrounds with excellent quality built in specific cities. And I believe that ILMX Lab, which is the company that owns the volume, is building those like type of facilities in LA, in Atlanta, and in Australia, and in London. I know that also London is a great city for film shooting.
Yes, great. Thank you for sharing, Andres. And yes, totally. Like we have seen that some producers have been searching for innovations, technologies, implementations, and new locations. And as you mentioned of the government support, that's also the case here in Vancouver. They have like tax refundable credits, and they like, I don't know, free visas for the people that are shooting there. So that's like the other way around of government intervention, but like they intervene, but in a positive way. And that helps them to develop more in terms of services. So some of the examples that are shot here in Hollywood North will be Riverdale, Arrow, The Good Doctor, Deadpool, Supernatural, just like for you to mention some. And what happened during the pandemic is that they were shooting here and they're in Vancouver, and they were saying like, okay, so right now if you are here in Vancouver, you can start shooting again, but you cannot cross the border. Like if the actor is not here in Vancouver, you will not be able to start filming. So that was like, that's why we've seen that a lot of TV series have been delayed because of COVID. And that's just like an example of government intervention because of national security too. So continue with the last one, movement of natural persons. It will be the individuals travel to offer the services in another country. So example of it will be arts and cultural live performance. You're paying for the talent that has to come to your city in order to see a show or something or an art. Sports, international games, a soccer team coming for like playing a game, I don't know, with a local soccer team. Constructions, architects, see if they have to come and see physically the spot that they were going to construct in. And education trainers, the professors traveling to locations where the students are at. So a good example of this, it's BTS. I love BTS. So what they're doing is they have been comparing, like it's a huge Korean band, and that is being like compared to rock legends as Rolling Stones, Paul McCartney, or American superstars like Beyonce and Taylor Swift. So that's the magnitude that they're having, and they're starting to go like they say there are 42 shows around the world, and then going into countries to give a concert, that it's a movement of natural person because the talent is traveling to a specific location to give, in this case, to sing or to give a show. So another example of Broadway across America, it will be Broadway across America. So it's like the presentations of Broadway being implemented in different regions. It could be the United States, Canada, or Mexico. Recently, this has been passing here in Monterrey, in Show Center Complex. They open up that show center, and they can come with original Broadway shows. And that's the same case, the talent coming here, giving you the Broadway show itself. And another example will be the Beck Group. So the Beck Group is from the United States. It's like a construction company. And one of the things that they do is that they came here to Monterrey to make the stadium of Borregos. So when they wanted to construct this, they have to come here, like see all the space that was about to be constructed, and then go back to the United States and starts making like all the planos and etc. So that will be another way of doing. So the trends in international trade services. So before we move forward, and I mean, this is the end of the presentation, I just want to go back to where all the types of export modes were, and just like starting to talk about it. So can anyone give me like one example of each, of which example was like good for you? I don't know, just like start talking about it and more. Here we have like the types of export, just for you to have them in mind. I don't know if someone wants to talk about an example that it comes to your mind that can apply the 4 of them or one of them or whatever. Feel free.
What comes to my mind when sorry, Jimmy, dale.
No, go ahead.
No, it's not an example per se, but the number 4, movement of natural people. I believe that requires a much more like regulations, like government regulation, because in a sense it has to do with migration laws and like a work permit in some cases. So I think that number 4 would be like the most one of the most regulated.
Yes, of course. Like if you see it in NAFTA, they are really specific about when you have to travel because of work and everything. They made like a chapter about it, and that's the importance that you're saying. Like it happens a lot. People travels a lot because of work, because we are living in a globalization era. So yes, that's important, and that's like a really good big focus that they have to be implementing, like governments, international trades, everything. Thank you, Andres. Jime?
Well, for cross-border, maybe an example will be the online concerts. Like when you mentioned BTS, I remember they offer like an online concert, and like people around the world could just pay the ticket at the entrance and they could see it wherever they were from. And well, for commercial presence, maybe the Disney theme parks, since they have theme parks around the world and they tropicalize them to like most of them to adapt to that place where they are.
Yes, of course. Theme parks of Disney will be a commercial presence, and it's really interesting how they adapt. Like if you go to Shanghai or Hong Kong or Disney World Paris, I don't know, everyone will like, every park will be different, and that's really good. And also in cross-border about the concerts being doing during the pandemic, I think that came like up. I don't know if you think about it, but probably the persons that were going to buy a ticket, like an online concert ticket, will be less before the pandemic. But right now, during the pandemic, it got more like a normal thing to do. Like, I want to see this concert, I will pay for it, and you will enjoy, and you will invite your friends here at your house, whatever. So that will have been changed into a strong way of doing concerts. I think it's evolving right now, that area. Okay, thank you, Jime. Someone else wants to give another example or any questions or talk about the examples that we discussed? Yes, Donato, and then Larissa.
Yes, I'm not sure if we reviewed this example, but when I think about consumption abroad, my first thought was international students that fly over to another country to receive a certain type of education. That's it.
Yes, of course, it will be a great example. And I think like anytime when you're someone's yes, so that's a good example. And if you thought about the name like studying abroad, it comes also like the abroad thing, so it will come up to your mind real quick. And yes, that's a good way to understanding it, because like you're students and like seeing in how will you apply it to you, like what type of consumer you will be. Yes, so if you go study another country, it will be consumption abroad. Totally. Thank you, Donato. Larissa?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes.
What would be the main difference between the cross-border and commercial presence?
Okay, so commercial presence will be like establishing the company itself. Like you will have headquarters, or you will have like physically all the, I don't know, if you have a restaurant and you are going to put like the restaurant over there. So it's more like being physically there, like giving the service physically. I don't know if you mean, like for example, for cross-border, it will be just like when if it's infrastructure, it will be just the kind of the examples that I mentioned to you, like transportation thing, that it's not, you're not going to the country in a permanent way. And when you're going like with a commercial presence, you're staying there. I don't know if that answered the question, or if not, tell me.
Okay, no, yes, thank you.
Okay, great. No, you're welcome. So anyone else wants to comment something, want to see more about one example that we discussed? I don't know. It's just like, feel free. It's an open mic.
Well, recently we saw the Olympic Games, so that's like a huge movement of natural persons over there.
Yes, that is. And all the talent going there to Japan and doing all that. Yes, that's true. And in some type of way, it can also kind of be a cross-border. Like if you think about it, if it was like an international TV channel, you will be also doing cross-border. So that will be an example too.
Well, yeah, like us seeing like what they broadcast will be like that way.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Nancy. That's a good example. Someone else? Yes, Sarah?
I don't know. For example, Netflix. I mean, they have like Netflix for the United States and Netflix for Mexico, but I don't know. I guess they have headquarters here in Mexico, and therefore it would be like a consumption abroad. No, sorry, the commercial presence. But in case they don't, and I don't know if Netflix, the headquarters all are in the United States, then that would be cross-border, even if it's like Netflix Mexico.
So right now, like you can apply all of them. So if you see like there's a commercial presence because they have Netflix Latam that is here in Mexico, right? And they will having like the one of the UK or whatever. So cross-border, it's a good example, but I don't know, like if you pay here, like if we download Netflix here and we pay for it, we're going to be having Netflix Mexico. And if you've seen, like when you go to the United States or to Europe, Netflix will be changing and you are not able to see the same things. So right now, like nowadays, I think it's really centralized. And if you are in a country, you will be seeing the thing that you're paying in the country. But at the beginning of Netflix, it might all have been like kind of a cross-border thing. Totally, because they have not like that kind of separation of Mexico, Latam, and all that things. But yes, thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
So someone else wants to mention something? Okay, just like for us to finish the class right now, it will be like just getting to know what types of trends the international service is going to have, the evolution and transformation that it's having, like have we talked about it yesterday, that digital transformation is coming ahead and all the international services and policies and regulations have to come along with this evolution that it's having in the world. Also, there will be a need of international collaborations between countries, between organizations, and also between companies. And I think that is the thing that is missing right now, more about a collaboration and not like restriction of it, as we've seen from the United States. And also value to different cultures, the adaptation that they are having. I think they're pretty much doing a good thing, most of the companies that it's involved in services, in international services. The need for international regulations, laws and controls, that's a thing, and that's what we discussed yesterday. They have been improving and they have been adding more regulations to it, but still we have a lot of work to do on it. Competition across product service companies, that's a thing. So services are growing a lot and products may have been having like less competitive advantage over services. So I have no doubt that in some point a product-based company will be starting to introduce kind of experience and more like type of a service to things, so that they have to grow and compete against services companies. So just for you to know, we have the activity number 2. This activity will be individual. So you will have to search for an example of a company that exports using each export mode, the total 4 of them. An explanation of the main activities supplied through each mode should be included. So you will have to think about, like, for example, the hospital that I came up, just like the same example. And if you want to add like extra examples for that can apply like just 2 or something, it will be fine too. But at least you will have to think about a company that can apply the 4 types of export modes. And the presentation, I will be choosing randomly some of you to present tomorrow, and just like prepare a PowerPoint presentation, and you will have to include there just the way like that I showed it to you, how is the interaction in each of the export modes, your general conclusions, the challenges exporting that services in every of the 4 modes, and it will be it. I don't know if you have any questions on it before we end the class.
Is it a company that uses the 4 export modes, or one company per export mode?
No, a company that you think that can use the 4 export modes. Yeah, just like the hospital, the example of the hospital. Mm-hmm.
And what about the explanation of the main activities? I don't understand that part. If you could explain it better, please.
The explanation, it will be like, what are they doing in that export mode? How are they applying it? Like, just for you to explain, okay, for example, in the hospital, okay, cross-border, it will be when the doctor is having a consult online with a patient in Canada. So that was, and the main challenge in here will be da-da-da-da-da. The other export mode that the hospital can have is, and you will start like doing in that kind of way. Mm-hmm. Perfect.
Professor, just one question. It's like
yes.
One for like one for cross-border, one for consumption, and other for commercial presence, or I didn't have catch that.
So it will be one company applying the 4 export modes.
Okay.
And Professor, just a quick format question. This is the deliverable is a presentation, right? Rather than a document. Okay.
Yes, it will be a presentation. The same as you did for the first activity, it can be like 5 slides. Feel free to use whatever you want, like just a PowerPoint presentation.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Someone else has any questions? No? Well, that will be it for today. Thank you so much for your participation, and it's almost Friday, so take care and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you. You
Bye.
too.
Bye, teacher. Thank you.
Thank you,